Rick Harrison's story begins long before television fame or celebrity recognition, rooted in a life shaped by instability, discipline, and survival instincts rather than privilege. Born in 1965, he grew up in a family that moved frequently due to his father's Navy career, never allowing him to settle long enough to form lasting attachments to place or routine. That constant movement created in him a sense of adaptability that would later define his business instincts. Early childhood also carried emotional weight, including the loss of a sister at a young age, which left an unspoken shadow in the household. Even as a child, Rick's life was marked by disruption and adjustment rather than stability or comfort. Medical challenges added another layer of difficulty. By the age of 8, he began experiencing seizures that interrupted his schooling and limited his ability to participate in normal childhood activities. These episodes were physically draining and socially isolating, often forcing him into long periods of recovery at home. While other children built friendships and routines, Rick spent much of his time confined indoors. Yet it was during these isolated moments that he developed a deep connection with reading. Books became his escape, particularly adventure and strategy-driven stories that allowed him to imagine systems, risks, and rewards. One series in particular influenced him profoundly, shaping his early understanding of negotiation and problem-solving. The structured thinking in those stories encouraged him to view challenges as puzzles rather than obstacles. Over time, this mindset would evolve into a practical skill set that helped him later in business. Even before adolescence ended, Rick was already developing an internal framework built around observation, adaptation, and opportunity recognition. Early struggles, risk-taking, and the formation of hustler instincts. By his teenage years, Rick's life had already taken a direction far removed from traditional expectations. His academic path was inconsistent due to ongoing health issues, and by high school he was frequently absent. Eventually, he left formal education entirely, not because of lack of intelligence, but because the structure of school no longer aligned with the reality of his condition or his circumstances. In its place, he began navigating the informal economy that defined parts of Las Vegas during its rapid expansion years. Living in Las Vegas during the early 1980s exposed him to a world of constant transactional movement. Swap meets, resale markets, and informal trade networks became his training ground. As a teenager, he entered the resale business with boldness that surprised even experienced vendors. He learned quickly how supply, demand, and perception influenced value. Buying inexpensive goods and reselling them at higher margins became his first real lesson in entrepreneurship. At times, his ventures were unconventional and risky. He dealt in counterfeit goods, imported items, and fast-moving fashion products that relied on trends rather than durability. While ethically questionable in hindsight, these early activities taught him how to read markets under pressure. He understood timing, pricing psychology, and the importance of knowing what people wanted before they did. This period also marked significant personal responsibility. Becoming a father at a young age forced him into adulthood earlier than most peers. Suddenly, financial survival was not theoretical, it was immediate and constant. The combination of fatherhood, unstable income, and rapid adaptation shaped his identity as someone who did not wait for opportunity but created it through action. Building the foundation of a pawn empire in Las Vegas. The transformation from street hustler to legitimate business owner began when Rick's family relocated to Las Vegas and invested their remaining resources into a small coin and gold shop. The early years were difficult, defined by limited traffic and minimal profit. The store operated in a tiny space, and daily earnings were often unpredictable. Yet despite the challenges, Rick and his family remained committed to the idea that valuable opportunities existed in overlooked places. A unique regulatory restriction in Las Vegas created both a challenge and an opportunity. The city limited the number of pawn licenses until population thresholds were reached. This forced patience became an advantage for Rick, who tracked population data over years, waiting for the precise moment when expansion was legally possible. When the threshold was finally met, he acted immediately, securing the license and establishing what would become the gold and silver pawn shop. The early version of the shop was modest, but it operated with consistent discipline. Every transaction mattered, no matter how small. Over time, the business built trust within the community. locals began to see the shop as a reliable place to exchange value rather than a last resort for financial distress. That perception shift was critical. As the years progressed, the shop expanded both physically and financially. Inventory diversity increased, customer traffic grew, and loan activity accelerated. By the early 2000s, the business was generating substantial annual revenue. This steady climb was not accidental but the result of long-term persistence, negotiation skill, and an ability to identify value in unexpected items. From local business to television phenomenon. The transition from pawn shop to global television franchise began almost unintentionally. Rick's desire to change public perception of pawn shops led him to explore media opportunities. He believed that showing the human stories behind transactions could reshape how people viewed the industry. Early media appearances were small, but they planted the seed for something larger. Eventually, production companies recognized the potential for a reality series centered on a working pawn shop. The concept was simple but powerful. Real transactions, real negotiations, and real personalities. After several development stages, the project was approved, and the show premiered on the History Channel in 2009. The impact was immediate. Audiences responded to the authenticity of the format. Unlike scripted dramas, the show offered unpredictable interactions, historical artifacts, and family dynamics all in one setting. Viewers were drawn to both the items being evaluated and the personalities behind the counter. Rick became the central figure, balancing authority with curiosity. His son Corey and longtime employee Chumley added contrast and humor, creating a dynamic that felt both professional and personal. The show quickly rose in ratings, eventually becoming one of the most successful programs in the network's history. As popularity grew, the pawn shop itself transformed into a tourist destination. Visitors from around the world came to see the location featured on television. The business expanded operations, added staff, and restructured its physical layout to handle increased demand. What began as a small family store had become an international attraction. Fame, expansion, and the pressure of success. With fame came both opportunity and complexity. The success of the show elevated Rick Harrison into a public figure, but it also intensified scrutiny of his personal and professional life. The pawn shop experienced exponential growth in daily visitors, requiring operational changes to manage crowds and maintain service quality. The business scaled rapidly. Loan volume increased, inventory expanded, and revenue streams diversified into merchandise, appearances, and licensing. Rick also became involved in public speaking and media engagements, further extending his influence beyond the shop. However, the pressure of visibility also brought internal strain. The family dynamic, once private, became public content. Conversations, disagreements, and operational decisions were now subject to audience interpretation. What was once a small business became a televised ecosystem. Despite the challenges, Rick maintained focus on expansion. He made high-value purchases on the show, including rare collectibles, artwork, vehicles, and historical artifacts. These transactions reinforced the educational aspect of the program, showing audiences how valuation worked in real time. Yet fame also created expectations. The public began associating the shop with entertainment rather than commerce. Balancing authenticity with production demands became increasingly complex. Behind the scenes, maintaining consistency while filming multiple seasons required discipline and adaptation. Personal life, relationships, and repeated transitions. Rick Harrison's personal life was marked by multiple marriages, each reflecting different phases of his journey. His first marriage occurred when he was still a teenager, driven by early fatherhood and immediate responsibility. That relationship eventually ended as both partners struggled to navigate adulthood under financial and emotional pressure. Subsequent marriages reflected different stages of stability and change. Each relationship brought new family connections, children, and blended household dynamics. While some marriages ended quietly, others reflected deeper incompatibilities shaped by lifestyle demands and public attention. Over time, Rick became stepfather to additional children and maintained relationships across multiple family structures. His role as a father remained central, even as personal relationships evolved. The demands of business and television often created distance within his personal life, but he consistently remained involved with his children. Tragedy later intensified his personal struggles. The loss of his son Adam to addiction-related complications was one of the most devastating events in his life. This loss brought public attention to private pain and pushed Rick into advocacy discussions around addiction and drug policy. Through it all, his personal life reflected a pattern of persistence through change. Relationships shifted, but responsibility remained constant. Family complexity became part of his broader narrative, intertwined with both success and hardship, tragedy, legal conflict, and family breakdown. As the years progressed, the Harrison family experienced a series of legal and emotional challenges that reshaped their internal relationships. One of the most significant involved a lawsuit filed by Rick's mother, who alleged financial mismanagement and disputed ownership transfers related to the pawn business. The case raised questions about trust, control, and family decision-making during periods of medical vulnerability. At the same time, the family faced the declining health and eventual death of Rick's father, Richard Harrison, a foundational figure in both the business and the television series. His passing marked the end of an era and introduced emotional instability into both the family and the show's structure. Additional legal issues involving other family members added further strain. Allegations, disputes, and financial disagreements became public, creating tension between private grief and public scrutiny. These challenges were amplified by media attention, which often framed personal struggles as entertainment narratives. Despite these difficulties, the pawn shop continued operating. However, the emotional toll on the family was significant. Loss, conflict, and legal battles created fractures that extended beyond business concerns. Rick's public responses during this period were often measured, focusing on maintaining dignity while acknowledging pain. The intersection of family, business, and public image became increasingly difficult to separate. Loss of a son and the weight of personal grief. The death of Rick Harrison's son Adam marked a turning point in his life that extended far beyond business or public reputation. Adam's struggles with addiction had been ongoing for years, involving cycles of recovery and relapse. Despite repeated efforts to provide support, the situation ultimately ended in tragedy. Adam's passing due to accidental overdose brought intense grief and public attention. For Rick, the loss was deeply personal and irreversible. He openly expressed the emotional impact, describing it as the most painful experience of his life. The tragedy also highlighted broader societal issues related to addiction and substance abuse. Rick used his platform to speak about the dangers of fentanyl and the challenges families face when dealing with addiction. His comments reflected both personal anguish and a desire to prevent similar outcomes for others. Grief reshaped his perspective on life and success. Business achievements and television fame became secondary to personal loss. The experience forced him to confront the fragility of family stability despite external success. Even as he continued working, the emotional weight of the loss remained present. It influenced his decisions, his public statements, and his overall outlook on life moving forward. The end of Pawn Stars and industry uncertainty. In 2025, after more than a decade and a half of production, Pawn Stars entered an indefinite hiatus. The absence of a formal renewal announcement left fans uncertain about the future of the series. While reruns continued to air, production activity ceased, signaling a major shift in the show's life cycle. The conclusion of filming marked the end of a cultural era in reality television. The show had not only documented pawn transactions but also shaped public perception of the industry. Its absence created a noticeable gap in the entertainment landscape. Cast members began moving in different directions. Corey Harrison eventually relocated to Mexico, stepping away from regular participation in the show. His departure added to speculation about the future of the franchise and whether it could continue in its original form. Rick, however, remained active in discussions about potential revival or rebranding. Ideas for a new format began circulating, focusing on modernized versions of the original concept. These discussions reflected both nostalgia and adaptation to changing media landscapes. Despite uncertainty, the legacy of the show remained intact. Its influence on reality television, business education, and pop culture persisted even as production paused. Reinvention, new projects, and financial reality. Following the hiatus, Rick Harrison began exploring new directions under the concept often referred to as Pawn Stars 2.0. This idea focused on updating the brand for a modern audience while maintaining the core elements that made the original successful. He engaged with production companies and explored potential partnerships with major networks. While no official deal was finalized, The discussions reflected ongoing interest in the franchise. Rick also continued participating in public appearances, business ventures, and media engagements. Financially, his net worth remained in the multi-million-dollar range, supported by years of business expansion, media revenue, and investments. However, maintaining legacy businesses in a changing media environment required adaptation. He diversified income streams through real estate, merchandise, and event participation. The pawn shop itself continued to operate as a tourist attraction, generating steady revenue even without active filming. Despite financial stability, the emotional and structural changes in his life created a sense of transition. The combination of family loss, business evolution, and media uncertainty placed him in a period of reinvention rather than expansion. Legacy, reputation, and cultural impact. Rick Harrison's legacy extends beyond television or business success. He became a symbol of how informal markets can evolve into structured enterprises. His journey from small pawn shop operator to international media figure demonstrated the intersection of entrepreneurship and entertainment. The cultural impact of Pawn Stars influenced how audiences understand valuation, negotiation, and historical artifacts. The show introduced millions to the idea that everyday objects can carry significant financial and historical value. Rick's personal story also became part of his legacy. His resilience through health challenges, family struggles, and business uncertainty contributed to public perception of him as a persistent figure navigating complex circumstances. At the same time, his story reflects the cost of long-term visibility. Public life brought success but also scrutiny, legal challenges, and emotional exposure. The balance between personal privacy and public persona became increasingly difficult to maintain. Ultimately, his legacy is not defined by a single achievement but by the accumulation of decades of adaptation, persistence, and reinvention. Conclusion. An empire that keeps moving forward. Rick Harrison's life is not a simple narrative of rise and fall but a continuous cycle of building, losing, adapting, and rebuilding. From a childhood shaped by instability and illness, to a business empire that reached global recognition, his journey reflects both resilience and complexity. He created one of the most recognizable reality television franchises in history, transformed a small pawn shop into a global destination, and navigated personal tragedies that tested his limits. Along the way, he experienced success, loss, legal disputes, and reinvention. Even as Pawn Stars entered uncertainty, his influence remains embedded in popular culture. Whether through reruns, business legacy, or future projects, his presence in the industry continues. His story ultimately reflects a broader truth. Success is rarely linear, and legacy is shaped as much by endurance through hardship as by moments of achievement.